Because of work, I often found myself at social gatherings with friends and colleagues. And when men get together, the conversation usually drifts toward two things: work and watches. That's how I picked up the habit of collecting luxury timepieces. In the room my wife Brooke kept for her jewelry, yes, an entire room, one of the drawers was practically a gallery. Lined with velvet, fitted with hangers, it displayed my entire collection of designer watches. Brooke had a younger brother, Trent. He just graduated high school and would sometimes swing by our place to hang out. Maybe it was just a guy thing, but Trent was obsessed with the watches. Couldn't keep his hands off them. Always asking questions, always admiring them. Brooke would occasionally gift him one or two. I never thought much of it. He was family. What was mine was his, no big deal. But something she said earlier this evening stirred a doubt I couldn't shake. And here's why. 2 days ago, right before boarding a flight, I caught an Instagram post from Trent. He'd just updated his story, geotagged in France. Caption: 1 week graduation trip. Time to treat myself. As I stood in the shower tonight, letting the water hit my back, something about that post kept gnawing at me. A missing watch wasn't the issue. But if my wife was cheating? That was a whole different story. When I stepped out of the shower, Brooke was still curled up on the living room sofa, phone in hand. Both thumbs were flying across the screen, tapping with practiced speed. Every so often, a faint smile would tug at the corners of her lips. I glanced at the clock on the wall, 11:30 p.m. That caught me off guard. Brooke was the type who never broke routine. Her discipline was almost clinical. By 11 sharp, she'd usually start yawning and head to bed without fail. But tonight, there wasn't even a trace of drowsiness on her face. Then a memory surfaced, something I'd read on Reddit a few nights ago. Someone had posted, if a normally serious person suddenly becomes glued to their phone, smiling like a teenager texting in secret, odds are they're talking to someone they really like. The idea made me chuckle at the time. I'd brushed it off as just another internet conspiracy cooked up by overparanoid strangers. But now, watching Brooke in that exact pose, completely absorbed in whatever was happening on her screen, I felt my breath catch. I'd been standing there for minutes. She hadn't even noticed. And just like that, I realized. The scenario described in that Reddit thread was playing out right in front of me. With that thought burning in my head, I turned and walked straight to the study, shutting the door behind me. I pulled out my phone and dialed Trent. "Hey, Trent," I said, keeping my voice casual. "How's the graduation trip going?" His voice lit up on the other end, excited and carefree. "Whoa, didn't expect a call from you. Man, France is incredible. I swear, if I could stay out here forever, I would." I smiled thinly, letting my tone cool. "Glad you're enjoying it. Hey, how's the watch Brooke gave you? You like it? If you're into it, I could set aside a few more." There was a pause. Then Trent blurted out, "What watch?" The words hit me like a slap. That watch hadn't gone to Trent. Then Brooke's offhand comment, "I gave it to my brother," suddenly twisted into something darker. Which brother? My gut clenched. My mind spiraled toward a truth I didn't want to face. If she didn't give it to Trent, then who? And if it wasn't Trent she'd been seeing while I was away on business? I could feel my pulse rising, fast and unsteady. The weight of it all pressed down on my chest. But I knew better than to jump to conclusions. A missing watch wasn't proof of anything. Not yet. "You okay?" Trent's voice cut in, a little uncertain now. "You're being kind of weird tonight." I cleared my throat, trying to sound offhand. "No big deal. Just got back from a trip and noticed one of my watches was gone. Brooke mentioned she gave it to you, so I figured I'd check." Now it was Trent's turn to go quiet. Dead quiet. I don't know how long I stood there, gripping the phone, before Trent's voice came back, low, rushed, and noticeably off. Yeah. That watch was from me. My bad, totally slipped my mind. Brooke mailed it to me. She said I shouldn't be out here with nothing flashy, that I'd embarrass myself in front of my classmates without at least one luxury item. His words tumbled out too quickly. Like he was reading from a script. Then, just as abruptly, he added, "It's getting late for you guys, right? You should get some sleep. I'm actually heading out for dinner with friends, so let's catch up later." Click. The line went dead. Any trace of sleep I might have had evaporated on the spot. Two thoughts kept circling my mind like vultures. First, Brooke was cheating. Second, I was the only one who didn't know. I sat in the study, smoking an entire cigarette with shaking hands before I could finally get my breath under control. When I came back out, Brooke had shifted positions on the sofa but hadn't moved far. She was still glued to her phone, that soft glow lighting up her face. I swallowed the storm building inside me and lowered myself onto the couch beside her like nothing had changed. I wrapped my arm around her, the way I always did. "Who's got you smiling like that?" I asked, half joking. "You sure you're not secretly in love or something?" It was nothing more than a teasing remark, something I might have said any night of the week. But Brooke's reaction wasn't normal. She froze. Then, like she'd been caught doing something unspeakable, she jerked the phone behind her back, eyes wide, breath hitched, utterly panicked. And in that moment, I knew. She gave me a light punch to the chest, rolling her eyes in irritation. "Jesus, you scared me. Do you always walk around like a damn ghost?" Then, her tone turned sharp, defensive. "What's with you? You come back from a trip and suddenly turn into a paranoid detective?" "I was just texting a friend." I looked her straight in the eye. She didn't look back. Her gaze flicked to me for a heartbeat, then darted away like it had touched fire. She turned her head, chewing nervously at her fingertip. A dull ache spread through my chest. People only act busy when they're trying to hide something. And right now, Brooke was performing. I forced myself to stay composed, tamping down the churn in my gut. I kept my voice light, casual, like I hadn't just watched her unravel. "Oh yeah? Which friend? Anyone I know?" That's when she turned her head sharply and stared me down, eyes wide, furious. And then she exploded. "You know what your problem is?" she snapped. "You come home and suddenly think you're some interrogator. What am I, your wife or a damn criminal? I'm not allowed to have my own space now. I can't have a normal conversation without giving you a full report." Her words came fast and loud, like machine gun fire. "What's next, huh? You gonna grab my phone? Start checking my messages? Lucas, for once in your life, can you drop the alpha male bullshit?" Her voice kept rising, each sentence sharper than the last. I could feel her breath hot on my face, each syllable like a slap. And through it all, one thing became clear. She wasn't trying to reassure me. She was trying to shut me up. Then, without warning, she slammed her phone hard against my chest. "There. Isn't that what you wanted?" she snapped. "Take it. Go through it. I'm so done with this, you treat me like some suspect on trial. Like I'm your wife in name only, but not worthy of your trust. I've had enough, Lucas. I can't live like this, not even one more day." Tears welled up in her eyes as she spoke. She wiped at them furiously, her face a portrait of fury and wounded pride. And just like that, something shifted in me. Watching her shake with frustration, seeing the hurt in her eyes, it hit me deep. It felt real. So real it made me wonder if I really was the one to blame. Maybe I had let my imagination run wild. Maybe I'd been away too long, working too much, overthinking everything. And as soon as that thought crept in, all the doubt, the suspicion, the theories, the tension, just vanished. Dissolved into the air like smoke. I pulled her into my arms, my voice low and remorseful. "I'm sorry, baby. It's my fault. Work's been a mess lately, I've been so out of it, I let my head get all twisted. If you're mad at me, go ahead, yell, hit me, whatever you need. Just, don't cry, okay? It kills me to see you cry." We'd been married 5 years. In that time, I'd spoiled her like she was made of glass. Brooke had become the princess of our little world. And now, seeing her collapse in my arms like this, shaking, weeping, I knew she wasn't used to this kind of hurt. She wasn't used to me being the one who caused it. The sobs grew louder as she clung to me. Then suddenly, without warning, she bit down hard on my arm, teeth sinking in deep. I didn't flinch. I let her. "This is your punishment," she murmured, her voice trembling as she pressed her forehead to my shoulder. "You have no idea how much it hurts when you don't trust me. While you were away on your trip, I messaged you every single day, kept you in the loop about everything, just wishing you'd come home sooner. And now you're back, and all I get is suspicion. Accusations? Feels like you don't even love me anymore." Brooke had always been beautiful, she was the campus queen back when we met, the kind of girl everyone noticed. But when she cried, when those tears clung to her lashes like fragile raindrops on porcelain, God, it was impossible to stay mad. My heart cracked wide open. I held her tighter, whispering apologies against her hair, as if each word could erase the hurt I'd caused. I even pulled out my phone and wired her $100,000 on the spot, like a peace offering, a symbol of guilt and surrender. "Baby, please don't be mad anymore," I said softly. "If you've got your eye on a new bag, or 2, or 10, just say the word. I'll get them all for you, okay? Think of it as my apology. I hate seeing you cry. You know how much I love that face, don't ruin it with tears." At last, her pout curled into a half-smile. She crossed her legs with exaggerated flair and gave me a mock scowl. "Fine. I'll forgive you this time," she declared, playfully stern. "But if this ever happens again, Lucas, you know what'll happen to you." I laughed and pulled her close, kissing her temple as I swore over and over that there wouldn't be a next time. That I trusted her. That I loved her. And just like that, every ounce of suspicion, every whisper of doubt, was gone. Gone like it had never been there at all. That night, exhaustion from back-to-back business trips had me knocked out almost instantly. I barely remember hitting the pillow. But sometime after midnight, I woke up with a dry throat, thirsty enough to reach for the water by the bed. That's when I saw it. A faint glow beside me. I turned my head and found Brooke, once again, phone in hand, illuminated by that soft screen light. At some point, without me noticing, she'd woken up and resumed her late-night texting. Her eyes were glued to the screen. And whatever was on the other end of that conversation, it had her laughing, quietly at first, then harder, her shoulders shaking with restrained joy. Like someone in love. She suddenly stopped and glanced my way, as if realizing I was still there beside her. I shut my eyes, slow and careful, pretending to be fast asleep. She waited a beat. Then, thinking I hadn't noticed, she lifted the phone to her lips and sent a voice message, soft but clear in the silent room. "Don't worry, he'll never find out. Same place tomorrow? Okay. Sleep early. Good night." Under the covers, my fists had already curled into tight, shaking knots of fury. Same place tomorrow? So that's how deep this went. Fine. Let's find out just what you've been hiding. By 8 a.m., Brooke was already up, moving around the room with unusual energy. I watched her from under half-lidded eyes, rage and bitterness brewing quietly in my chest. She was putting on makeup, carefully, methodically, layer by layer, like she was preparing for something important. A flawless complexion. Subtle contour. Lipstick in a shade she'd never worn around me. It stung more than I cared to admit. Since we got married, she'd always brushed off makeup, claiming it was too much trouble, bad for her skin. Said she didn't need it, not with me. But now? Now she was getting dolled up for someone else. When she was nearly ready to leave, I stirred in bed, stretching like I'd just been roused by the noise. I blinked at her groggily. "Morning, babe," I mumbled. "Heading out this early?" Brooke gave me a soft smile, sweet, easy, practiced. "Meeting the girls for some shopping. Might be out late, so don't wait up for dinner, okay?" She leaned down and pressed a light kiss to my cheek, the scent of her perfume lingering behind like a trail of smoke. "I'm sorry I can't spend the day with you, honey. Next weekend, I'm all yours." I didn't answer. Just watched her with quiet detachment. How had I never noticed how good she was at lying? "Love you," she called out, one hand already on the door. "See you tonight, maybe." And then she was gone. Only after her footsteps faded down the hall did I finally get up, calm, deliberate, every movement careful. It was time to follow the performance. And meet the man behind her makeup. Back when we first got together, Brooke was obsessed with installing every couple tracking app she could find on my phone. She said transparency was the foundation of a good marriage, that if we truly loved each other, there shouldn't be secrets. What I didn't realize at the time was that one of those apps came with built-in GPS tracking. Recently, I rediscovered it. And thanks to that little feature, it didn't take much to pinpoint the place she'd been frequenting. A restaurant. Tucked into an upscale shopping district. The kind of place with valet service and linen napkins folded like origami. I followed the location, parked discreetly down the street, and just as I was about to step out of the car, I froze. A familiar figure appeared. Trent. The same Trent who was supposed to be enjoying his graduation trip in France. There he was, walking toward the restaurant like he owned the place. A slow, heavy question began to burn in my gut. Just how many secrets are they keeping from me? I stayed put, watching from behind the tinted glass. The vantage point was perfect, wide open, unobstructed. I could see everything. Then I heard it, faint through the rolled-up windows. "Brooke! Over here!" Trent called out. I followed his gaze. And there she was. Brooke, dressed to the nines, every detail carefully arranged, hair, heels, lipstick. But she wasn't alone. Her arm was linked with another man's. And in that single moment, everything I'd tried to rationalize, everything I'd doubted, questioned, second-guessed. It all came into focus. No more theories. No more wondering. Now I knew. My wife, Brooke, was really cheating on me. There was no longer room for doubt. The man she was with, he raised a hand to greet Trent, casual and familiar, and in that instant, my eyes locked on his wrist. The watch. My watch. The exact one that had gone missing from the drawer. "Brooke, where are we going today?" Trent's voice rang out, high and playful like a child begging for an adventure. "It's been forever since we went out with Logan." He tugged on her hand, pouting. Completely oblivious. Brooke laughed, soft and embarrassed, ducking her head as she scolded him playfully. "Oh? Weren't you the one whining about flying overseas just a few days ago? What happened to that plan?" Trent rolled his eyes dramatically. "What's the fun in traveling when I could be out with Logan? Lucas only knows how to throw money around. He's so stiff, like a robot. Zero personality. Not like Logan. Logan's actually fun. Honestly, sis, I still don't get how you ended up marrying someone so boring." The words hit harder than I expected. I sat in the car, fingers clenched on the steering wheel. I cranked the AC down to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, hoping the cold air would keep me from exploding. It didn't help. Trent, barely out of high school. Just graduated. And I'd treated him like my own damn family. Every summer, wherever he wanted to go, I gave him a card, no limits, no questions. Designer shoes? Gadgets I hesitated to buy for myself? He asked once, and I bought it. Because he was Brooke's brother. Her only family. And I wanted to be the kind of man who loved what she loved. Who gave without keeping score. Now they stood there, laughing, mocking me. As if I'd been nothing more than a walking wallet they could both use, and discard. Brooke heard every word. He called me cold, boring, a man she never should have married. And she said nothing. Not a single word to defend me. That silence cut deeper than anything else. Maybe, deep down, she had been regretting marrying someone like me all along. A bitter laugh slipped from my lips, dry and humorless. Their voices carried again, drifting into my car like poison. "Logan," Trent said with a bright grin, "I wish you could just marry Brooke already. Then we'd never run out of things to talk about. And when I won a hit Comic-Con, I'd finally have someone to geek out with." I didn't know how long they'd known each other, but judging by how naturally they fit together, how easily they laughed, touched, leaned in close, this wasn't their first meeting. Not by a long shot. The man, Logan, rubbed the back of his neck, looking sheepish for a moment. Then he turned to Brooke, his voice suddenly softer. "Whoever ends up with Brooke is the luckiest guy alive," he said. "Too bad I came into the picture too late. If I had the chance to do it all over again, I wouldn't let her slip through my fingers." That did it. Brooke flushed, a coy smile blooming on her face. She half hid behind his shoulder like a bashful teenager. "Don't joke like that," she whispered. But her hand said something else. She didn't let go of his arm. In fact, she held it tighter. Logan glanced at his watch, my watch, and said, "I made the reservation already. I'll take you guys over in a bit." He was looking only at Brooke. And Brooke, she was looking right back. There was something in her eyes, soft, glowing, intimate. It was love. Undeniable. Unapologetic. The same look I used to see in her face. The same way I used to look at her. Perfect. Brooke beamed. "That's exactly where I wanted to go." "Yay. This is the best, nothing I love more than going out to eat with you guys," Trent chimed in, bouncing with excitement. Their laughter echoed like wind chimes, light and carefree. But I sat frozen in my car, lost in thought. Because Brooke, my wife, had once told me she hated places like that. Not once. Not casually. She'd snapped at me more than a few times about it. She grew up with little, came from a modest background, and high-end restaurants always made her uncomfortable. I remember her voice, angry and defensive, like she had something to prove. "Lucas, are you trying to embarrass me?" she'd snapped once, jaw clenched, arms folded across her chest. "You know I don't know anything about wine. I can't pronounce half the crap on those menus. Why do you always drag me to places like that? Just to show off how cultured you are?" She'd practically shouted it at me. And Trent, he'd always backed her up, nodding along like a loyal sidekick. I remember thinking they were serious. That their distaste was real. That they hated the kind of world I came from. So I stopped. From that day on, I never brought it up again. Never booked that kind of restaurant. Never ordered that kind of wine. I adjusted. I compromised. I let it go. But here they were, Brooke, dressed to perfection, laughing freely, glowing in a place she once told me she despised. And loving it. With another man. It wasn't just betrayal. It was reinvention. She had become someone entirely new. And left me behind without saying a word. Watching the three of them laugh like they didn't have a care in the world, Brooke nestled against Logan, Trent tagging along like some giddy little brother, I felt something hot coil in my chest. Rage. Bitter, blistering rage. And then, an urge. A sharp, spiteful need to see it. To watch the whole charade collapse right in front of her. So I pulled out my phone and dialed her number. From across the street, I saw her glance at the screen, then abruptly step away from the group, turning her back as she answered. "Hey, babe," she said, her voice suddenly warm and sweet. "What are you doing calling me at this hour?" "I figured I'd check in," I replied, calm and even. "You said you were out shopping with the girls." "I've got nothing on my schedule, thought maybe I'd swing by and join you." There was a beat of silence. Then, "No. You can't." The answer came too fast, too sharp. She must have realized it too, because a second later, she scrambled to soften the blow. "I mean, it's just me and the girls today," she added, sounding awkward. "It's not really a guy-friendly outing, you know." I let out a soft, bitter laugh. "Really? Just your girlfriends?" Across the street, I watched her shoulders stiffen, her whole body frozen for a second. She glanced around, scanning the area with growing unease. "Didn't see me." Then she pressed the phone tighter to her ear. Her voice dipped into irritation. "Who else would it be?" she said, trying to sound indignant. "Lucas, you're acting weird again. Are you seriously still hung up on what happened last night? I gave you my phone. You didn't want to look. That's on you. And now you're calling me like this? What, just to interrogate me again? I finally get one day out and you're already ruining it. Honestly, you should just stay on your business trips forever. At least then, you're not here making my life harder." Her words hit like stones. Cold. Measured. Cruel. I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Just the sound of my own breath catching in my throat, thick with disbelief. How did we get here? And why? Why was I the only one hurting? Brooke wasn't just lying to me. She was flipping the script entirely. Her voice on the phone had trembled with just enough hurt, just enough indignation to make it sound like I was the one in the wrong. Like I was the one tearing this marriage apart. And if this were any other day, any other fight from the years before, I probably would have softened by now. Apologized. Caved. Offered to buy her something to make it up to her. But not today. Today, I couldn't shut off the fury. Couldn't ignore the pit in my stomach, the ache behind my eyes. I needed to know. When did it start? How long had she been cheating? Was this the first time? The 10th? And if everything I saw today was real, what the hell was I supposed to do with it? We dated for 3 years. Married for 5. Her family, all of them, built their lives on the foundation of what I gave them. Their vacations. Their luxuries. Their education. Their future. All of it, because of me. And now, I was supposed to sit quietly and pretend I hadn't seen this? A voice inside me screamed louder than anything I'd heard in my life. Make them pay. By the time I snapped out of it, the call had already been disconnected. She'd hung up. I looked up, just in time to see her smoothing her expression, calm, composed again, and slipping her arm around Logan's. Logan glanced at her, concerned. Who was that? You looked upset. Brooke sighed, her face tightening with annoyance. Lucas. Who else? He's been acting paranoid lately. Just called me again, said he wanted to come join us for lunch. What? Trent cut in, his face falling instantly. Still too young to hide his thoughts, too immature to mask his disdain. Why would he come? He always kills the vibe. Every time. I'd always known, deep down, that they didn't truly like me. But hearing it out loud. Hearing them call me a buzzkill, like I was some awkward tagalong they just couldn't shake. That still hurt. Brooke waved it off like she was flicking lint from her coat. Don't worry, I shut it down, she said, linking her arm with Logan's even tighter. Why would we bring him to our get-together? This is for us. Then, like nothing had happened, they all turned toward the parking garage, smiling, chatting, laughing again. Like I didn't exist. Like I was already gone. ChatGPT. A bitter laugh broke from my throat as I slammed my fist against the steering wheel, hard enough to make the horn jolt. Outsider? In Brooke's eyes, after 5 years of marriage, I was just some outsider. Fine. If she wanted to treat me like I didn't belong. If she wanted to parade her affair in front of me like I was blind and stupid. Then I was done playing the good guy. I'd been wearing this damn crown of thorns long enough. They want to use me? Live off me? Mock me? Then they were going to pay for it. Every single cent I'd ever spent on them, every luxury, every vacation, every favor. I was going to take it all back. I pulled out my phone and made a call. Half an hour later, I was sitting at a quiet cafe across from a woman in dark sunglasses, barely meeting her eyes. Camille. My older sister. I hadn't even finished lowering myself into the chair before she let out a low whistle and burst out laughing. Well, never thought I'd live to see the day you grew a whole forest on your head, she said, grinning wide. I winced. Hard. My pride crumbled a little more. Come on, Camille, seriously? I muttered, letting out a long, heavy sigh. You're really gonna tease me right now? Do I not look pathetic enough already? Are you really my sister? What kind of sibling kicks a man when he's down? I pouted, slumping in my seat like someone who'd just lost the fight of his life. Camille finally stopped laughing. She sat up straighter, her teasing gone. Now her eyes were sharp, focused. You know what your problem is? Camille said, arms crossed, her voice laced with the kind of bluntness only an older sister could get away with. You never listen until you hit the damn wall head first. We all warned you back then, said it wasn't a good match. She wasn't from our world, wasn't built for it. But no, Mr. Romeo here had to go all in. You cut off the whole family just to marry her. Remember that? I lowered my head, swallowing the lump in my throat. She wasn't wrong. And now, after years of silence, I was sitting across from the very people I'd once turned away from, tail between my legs, looking for a way to crawl out of the mess I'd created. Camille's voice softened, just a little. Well, here we are, she said. You've had your fill of betrayal, finally remembered your bloodline. She reached into her purse, pulled out her phone, and slid it across the table toward me. I already looked into the guy for you, she said flatly. Logan's a bastard son from the Rutledge family, half-blood at best, riding the name but with none of the real clout. But that's enough for him to think he can mess with my brother? She leaned in, her eyes gleaming. Not a chance in hell. A sharp sting rose behind my eyes. I blinked hard and turned away, but it was too late, Camille noticed. See, she said, shaking her head. That's the thing about family. No matter how far you run, we're still the ones who show up when it counts. Then, suddenly, she went quiet. Something in her gaze sharpened. She took off her sunglasses, locked eyes with me, and asked, dead serious. You sure about this, Lucas? Once I move, there's no halfway. I don't go easy when it comes to revenge. You really want me to start that war? Or are you gonna chicken out the second Brooke starts crying again? I didn't say a word. But my hands curled into fists on the table. Tightly. Purposefully. The love I once had for Brooke burned like acid now, eaten through by betrayal, by the sight of her clinging to another man while I watched from the shadows like a fool. They didn't just make a mistake. They conspired. Lied. Took turns feeding me the same poisoned comfort. The moment they decided to play me like that, they'd chosen their ending. And when the fire comes, they'll have no one to blame but themselves. You don't need to go easy on them, I said, my voice low and steady. Brooke was the one who cheated first. And her little brother? They've both been bleeding me dry for years. Just walking away and handing over the divorce papers? That's letting them off easy. I want them to pay, every cent, every lie, every humiliation. As the words left my mouth, something shifted in Camille's expression. For the first time that morning, she smiled. Really smiled. That's more like it, she said. Now that sounds like someone from the Sinclair family. Not that indecisive mess you were playing last night. Good. Leave the rest to me. In less than 10 minutes, Camille had Logan's entire background spread out across the table like a blueprint for war. Names. Photos. Property records. Bank affiliations. Private school transcripts. She didn't miss a thing. I knew the Rutledges had dealings with us, she said, tapping the screen, but I didn't realize just how close the ties ran. Our parents know each other. The families have done business for decades. But Logan? She scoffed. He's a stain on the Rutledge name. An illegitimate son with no formal standing. Most people in their circle barely even know he exists. And those who do? They pretend not to. She flipped to a photo, Logan smiling like a prince in front of a luxury car that wasn't his. He's made a habit of flaunting the family name, Camille said, voice sharp. Uses it to book tables, charm women, build illusions. Brooke fell right into it. Probably thought she was trading up. She saw your grind, Lucas. Your long hours. Your ambition. But she also saw you step back from the Sinclair name. You wanted to build something on your own. And she mistook that for weakness. In her eyes, no matter how hard you worked, you'd never be born into the kind of wealth Logan pretends to come from. She wanted a shortcut. A ladder. She thought Logan was it. I stared down at the screen, at the man who'd smiled his way into my marriage wearing my watch and my wife's lipstick on his collar. But Brooke had made one critical miscalculation. The Rutledges were businesspeople. Ruthless, traditional, calculating. And in a world ruled by power and perception, a bastard son was disposable. She thought she was climbing the social ladder. But she was climbing a rope someone else could cut at any moment. And I? I had the scissors in my hand. Here, Camille said, sliding the tablet across the table toward me. This is the full list of the Rutledge family's current dealings with us. And now, you get to decide what happens next. She leaned back, sunglasses back on, her smile sharper than a blade. Let me see if my little brother still remembers the business rule Dad drilled into our heads, asterisk you never go to war with noise. You go with precision, asterisk. Hit them where it hurts, until nothing is left to stand on. I looked at the list, at the rows of joint ventures, investments, and cross-licensed patents worth millions, maybe more. Then, without hesitation, I tapped decline on the largest transaction in progress. Just like that, the first domino fell. The Sinclair family had rules. Ruthless, old money rules. If someone betrayed you, you didn't scream. You didn't storm out. You hit them in the spine. You made sure they couldn't stand up again. Logan knew Brooke was married. He knew exactly who she was, and what she had at home. But he still reached for her, greedy, arrogant, thinking he could walk into someone else's life and take what he wanted. That said more about his character than anything on Camille's dossier. And Brooke? A fly never lands on a clean surface. They deserved each other. So he'd be the first to fall. I set the iPad down and took a deep breath, trying to find a moment of calm, but Camille wasn't done. "Oh, and one more thing," she said, her voice suddenly light, almost amused. "Turns out Brooke did give that watch to Trent." I turned sharply. "What?" "Yep," she confirmed. "But Trent didn't keep it. He used it to bribe Logan into going to Comic-Con with him." I stared at her in stunned silence. "And it gets better," she added, eyes gleaming. "Logan's been dragging Trent along into all kinds of gray zone crap. Places a kid his age shouldn't even know exist. Trent's been loving it. Thinks Logan's the coolest guy on earth. Behind your back, he's been comparing you two non-stop, says you're uptight, boring, no sense of humor. Calls you a walking paycheck with zero personality." I felt my jaw tighten. They weren't just betraying me. They were mocking me. Feeding off me like parasites, and laughing about it when I wasn't looking. And Trent. The kid I treated like blood. Like family. He didn't just bite the hand that fed him. He brought someone else to the feast. It was no longer about a broken marriage. This was war. And they'd all signed the declaration. If Brooke's betrayal felt like someone had taken a blade and carved open my chest, then Trent's words, those smug, juvenile jabs behind my back, were the twist of that knife, driven straight into my heart. I met Brooke in college. It was love at first sight, the kind that hits you like a freight train. From the moment I laid eyes on her, I was all in, chasing her like nothing else in my life had ever mattered. She let me court her with grand gestures, with quiet devotion, with a loyalty that bordered on obsession. And yet, even then, she would scoff. Say that I was trying to buy her affection. That every gift was an insult to her pride. That I didn't love her for who she was, but for what I thought she could become. She said we came from different worlds. Said I couldn't possibly love her for real. That I didn't get her. That all of this was just a game to me. So I did the unthinkable to prove her wrong. I walked away from the Sinclair family. From the name, the power, the legacy. Moved out. Started over. Built something from scratch. Just to show her my love was real. And that, finally, was what made her say yes. I thought I'd won something precious. Thought I'd broken through. Thought I'd proven that what we had was more than money, more than status, more than some empty fantasy of love. I was a fool. I worked like hell to give her a good life. Pushed myself to the edge. Hospitalized more than once from exhaustion. Late nights. Missed holidays. Weekends blurred into deadlines. And I did it all with one purpose in mind. So she'd never feel small again. So she'd never have to look up at the world like she didn't belong. So she could feel, truly, like she was loved, protected, chosen. But looking back now, everything feels different. Clearer. Sharper. Crueler. Not long after we got married, Brooke began dropping hints. Subtle at first. Then more direct. She told me her parents had died young. That Trent was all she had left in this world. He was still stuck in an underfunded public high school, and it tore her up inside to think she was living in comfort while her little brother struggled. She said it softly, almost apologetically. Just loud enough for me to hear. Just quiet enough to let me feel like it was my idea to help. So I did what she wanted, without her needing to ask twice. I gritted my teeth through endless business dinners, drank myself sick trying to win favor with the right people. By the end of that week, I was in the ER with a bleeding ulcer. But I got it done. Trent was accepted into the top private prep school in the city. Tuition paid in full. When he got sick, Brooke always had a reason not to take him. She said those upscale hospitals made her feel small. Like she didn't belong. That she'd embarrass herself or say the wrong thing. So I went. I handled every appointment. Booked every specialist. Sat beside him through every test and follow-up. All while juggling a business that was still finding its legs, contracts piling up, meetings stretching past midnight. And still, I made time. Then one day, Trent looked up from his phone and said with a straight face, "Lucas, all the guys at school are taking writing lessons and learning to shoot. I want to join too. Otherwise, they'll look down on me." That's all it took. I cancelled a client lunch that had taken 3 weeks to schedule. Drove him to the best training facility in the city. Paid the fees. Bought the gear. Signed every release form myself. Because in my head, I wasn't just helping her brother. I was helping our family. Being the kind of husband Brooke could be proud of. I pitied them. For their childhood. For the losses they carried. For the kind of past that clings to your skin no matter how much you try to scrub it clean. So I gave. I gave them everything. Not just money. Not just comfort. I gave them peace of mind. Stability. A future. Emotionally, financially, I poured myself into that family like they were my own blood. At times, I even caught myself thinking of Trent not as my brother-in-law, but as my own son. 5 years. 5 years of raising him, supporting him, protecting him. Even a dog would learn to wag its tail after all that time. And yet the boy I raised? He gave me nothing but disdain. Mockery. A knife to the back. The things he said, behind closed doors, with Logan, with Brooke. They weren't just ungrateful. They were a slap across the face. A silent, brutal humiliation. Well. If my loyalty wasn't enough to earn even a sliver of theirs, then I had every right to take it all back. He cast the first stone. And now, he could be the first to fall. They'd lived too long in the comfort I built, forgotten what it meant to crawl. To hunger. To need. So I moved swiftly. Cancelled the supplementary credit cards I'd added them to. Froze the checking accounts I'd transferred in their name. No warning. No explanation. Then I listed the properties, 3 apartments, 2 of them they'd been living in for free. All going up for sale. Even if I had to take a loss, I'd rather see strangers live in those homes than let Trent or Brooke enjoy another second under my roof. Let's see what they're made of. When there's no money to lean on. No access. No safety net. Let's see how high they can climb. Without me holding the ladder. Just as I expected. 2 hours later, my phone lit up with a call from Trent. "Lucas," he started, his tone already laced with irritation. "What's going on?" My card suddenly stopped working. Brooke and I were in the middle of lunch, and we couldn't even pay the bill. You have no idea how embarrassing that was for us. He gave a forced little laugh, like he was trying to brush it off. But there was a bite in his voice. A little jab, like this was somehow my fault. "Next time something like this happens, could you at least give us a heads up?" he added. "I mean, seriously, I don't need that kind of humiliation." I sat there, silent, letting his words hang in the air. He didn't ask what was wrong. Didn't wonder if something had happened. Didn't show the slightest ounce of concern. No. He was embarrassed. He was inconvenienced. He was entitled. And why wouldn't he be? I had spoiled him, given him so much, for so long, that now he thought of it all as his by default. He thought my silence was cruelty. He didn't realize it was control. The same control they had abused, now turned against them. I answered with a single, cold syllable. "Oh. Nothing else." The pause on the other end of the line was long. He hadn't expected that. When he finally spoke again, his voice had changed, confused, a little panicked. "Lucas, what does that mean? Are you serious? You have so much money, you can't possibly care about my little expenses, right? Come on, man. Just unfreeze the card already." Brooke still waiting at the table. "You really want her to get pissed off at you? Pissed off at me?" I almost laughed. The sheer absurdity of it. He thought I still feared her anger. As if that held weight anymore. As if she hadn't already torched every bridge between us with her own 2 hands. He still believed she held power over me. That's how far gone they were. So drunk on comfort, so blind to consequence. They couldn't see the fire until it was already burning through the floor beneath them. Let her get angry. Let her scream, throw her little tantrums, call me cold, call me cruel. I'd given them everything. Now they would learn to live with nothing. I never understood it. How could I be the one who worked, who provided, who held this entire relationship together? And yet somehow, still end up the one left crawling? Apologizing. Begging. Why was I the one who had to earn love in a house I paid for? Now I see it clearly. Some people are just born shameless. The kind who mistake kindness for weakness. Who confuse generosity with submission. A cold laugh escaped my lips, sharp and deliberate as I raised the phone back to my ear. "The card's in my name," I said flatly. "If I want to freeze it, I don't owe you a damn explanation. Living off someone else's money at your age?" I added, voice dropping an octave. "What's the excuse? Did your parents never teach you what self-respect is?" For a few seconds, there was silence. Then came the snap. I could practically hear Trent unravel. All those years he spent enjoying a life he didn't build, wrapped in the illusion of wealth I created for him. All of it shattered with a few sentences. He had tried so hard to bury where he came from. To forget the second-hand uniforms, the crumbling walls of his old public school, the long bus rides through neighborhoods people like him weren't supposed to envy. And now I'd dragged it all back into the light. He exploded. "Lucas, so what if you've got a few bucks?" he shouted. "You think that makes you better than me? You gave us those things. You don't get to just take them back. That's not how this works. You remember what you said when you married my sister? That we were family? That you'd look out for us?" His voice cracked, rage and panic bleeding together. "Well, guess what? You better remember what you said today too. Because I swear, I'll make Brooke divorce you. And when she does? When you come crawling back, begging to undo this, I won't even spit in your direction." It was meant to wound. To intimidate. To make me flinch. But all it did, was confirm everything I already knew. He thought this was still a negotiation. He still hadn't realized. This time, I wasn't giving him the option to walk away. I was taking everything. And there was nothing he could do to stop it. I hung up without another word, letting Trent's shrill outrage dissolve into dead air. That was just the beginning. And if he couldn't handle a frozen credit card, he was in for a brutal awakening. The real storm hadn't even started. Across the table, Camille took a slow sip of her coffee, her expression calm, almost amused. "So," she said, tilting her head, "you planning to swing by the house tonight? Mom and Dad may act like they've written you off, but trust me, those two have been waiting for you to come back since the day you left." Guilt tugged at my chest. I remembered the way my parents stood there, stunned and silent, the day I walked away from the family name for love. For a woman who now saw me as little more than a wallet. I hurt them more than I'd ever admit. And they'd never said a word. But now wasn't the time. Not yet. Once this was all over, once the dust had settled, I'd go back. I'd apologize. Properly. Personally. But for now. I need to head home first, I told Camille. I want to see, really see, what kind of show they plan to put on next. She smiled knowingly. Good. I already sent 2 of my best people. Just watch the sparks fly. By the time I pulled into the driveway, dusk had settled. The moment I stepped through the door, the air shifted. The front door slammed open behind me with a bang that echoed through the walls. Brooke stood in the doorway like a storm cloud, eyes blazing, hand on her hip, the other pointed straight at me. "Lucas," she snapped, her voice rising like a siren, "have you completely lost your damn mind? What the hell is wrong with you? You froze the cards? Do you even realize what you've done? We couldn't even pay for lunch. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was?" Her words hit like bullets, fast, furious, entitled. "If you were still pissed about the other night, say it. Why go behind our backs? Why act like a child just to get my attention?" Beside her, Trent chimed in, voice full of wounded indignation. "Exactly. I respected you. I treated you like family. And this is what we get?" I let out a low, sharp laugh. God, they really were cut from the same cloth. Not an ounce of shame. Not a flicker of remorse. Still convinced they were the victims in this story. "Funny," I said, shaking my head. "It's just like they say, trash always finds its way home." Their ability to twist the narrative, turn every wrong into someone else's fault, was nothing short of synchronized. My silence only seemed to enrage Brooke further. With a shriek of frustration, she grabbed the glass on the console table and hurled it at the floor. It shattered on impact, shards flying across the hardwood like angry sparks. "Lucas," she snapped, eyes wild. "I'm talking to you. What, are you deaf now? Or just too much of a coward to open your mouth? There's a saying. When tolerance reaches its limit, silence is no longer a virtue." I slowly lifted my gaze to meet hers. My eyes, cold. My voice, ice. "So what's your point?" I said, calm as stone. I froze my card. "Where's the problem? I could have sworn the 2 of you once lectured me, repeatedly about how much you hated spending other people's money. So what is this now? Poetic justice? Or just the natural consequence of living a lie too long?" Brooke's face flushed deep red. Trent bristled beside her like a kicked dog. I stood up, slowly, never breaking eye contact. "And being treated like trash at a restaurant, how exactly is that my problem?" I added, voice cutting. "Did I eat the food? Was I the one sitting at the table playing house with my wife and her new man? Or," I tilted my head mockingly, "are you trying to tell me that 3 grown adults couldn't scrape together $1,000 between them for lunch?" I let my eyes drift over to Logan, standing by the doorway. "And you," I said, voice dropping low. "Didn't you say you were the Rutledge family's golden boy?" I raised my brows, faux surprise coating every word. "Don't tell me," I said, lips curling, "not even a self-proclaimed heir to a billionaire family can cough up $1,000 without help from his mistress husband?" Logan's face turned a shade darker, lips pressed tight, jaw ticking, fists clenched at his sides. But he said nothing. Because he had nothing to say. He couldn't stop me. Couldn't outplay me. Couldn't even pay for lunch without my money. And in that moment, all 3 of them, Brooke with her broken glass, Trent with his bruised ego, Logan with his hollow title, finally realized something. The man they thought they had broken was just getting started. He was nothing more than a bastard son of the Rutledge family. Born on the margins. Tolerated, not embraced. Everything about his lifestyle was carefully rationed, his spending watched, his movements monitored. And on top of it all, he had a gambling habit. The man was bleeding money in backroom card games and private bets, living hand-to-mouth in designer clothes he couldn't afford to dry clean. He wasn't treating them to fine dining, he was using them to fund it. Trying to play the prince with someone else's gold. And Brooke and Trent? They bought every word. Two fools so desperate for illusion, they'd gladly carry the bags of the man who sold them the dream. They weren't just being used. They were paying to be used. As soon as I said it out loud, Brooke blurted out, too fast to stop herself. I would never spend another man's money. She froze. The moment the words left her mouth, she realized exactly what she'd just confessed. Her head snapped toward me, eyes wide with fury, trying to reclaim the upper hand. You've been spying on me, she hissed. You really have lost your mind, haven't you? Following me around like some unhinged stalker. Is this what you do all day now? Just spiral in your little pity party? The more she talked, the more rattled she sounded. And the more amused I became. I leaned back on the couch, stretched an arm across the top, and smiled lazily. What are you so worked up about? I asked, voice cool. Unless you've got something to hide? I mean, if there's nothing going on, why would you be so scared of being found out? Her jaw clenched. My voice lowered, smooth and razor-edged. Come on, Brooke. You know the saying, if you don't want it known, don't do it in the first place. I said it with a smile. And she flinched. Not visibly. Not for anyone else. But I saw it. She couldn't hold my gaze. She glanced at me, then turned her head away quickly, like a child caught cheating on a test. I have no idea what you're talking about, she muttered. And don't try to dodge this, just unlock the damn cards. Give Trent and me access again, or so help me God. She turned back, eyes narrowed, voice trembling. I will divorce you. I swear, Lucas, I'll walk away from this marriage right now. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I smiled wider. Because she still didn't get it. She still thought leaving was a threat. As if I hadn't already started packing her world into boxes. I took a slow sip of water, letting the silence stretch just a second longer before I said, almost casually. Well, look at that. Guess we're finally on the same page for once. You want a divorce? I looked up at her, calm as ice. Funny. So do I. For a beat, the entire room seemed to stop breathing. No one moved. No one spoke. The tension thickened, pressing in from every corner of that oversized room until even the ticking of the wall clock felt too loud. Brooke stared at me, eyes wide in disbelief. Lucas, she finally said, her voice a mix of panic and anger. Do you even hear yourself right now? Are you seriously talking about divorce over this? This is ridiculous. It was just a little fight, and you're blowing it out of proportion like some drama queen. What, you want to make a public scene now? Embarrass yourself even more? Just unfreeze the damn cards, and we can forget this happened. We're family. What kind of people treat family like this? Family. Now she wanted to remember we were family. Funny. She didn't seem to think of me as family when she was out clinging to Logan's arm, whispering late-night voice messages, and lying to my face with a smile on hers. I raised an eyebrow and tilted my head, feigning innocence as I shook my head slowly. Sorry, I said with a shrug. But I'm not the one who should feel embarrassed. I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. I didn't bleed someone dry while sneaking around behind their back. Seems like the only one trying to save face here, is the one who lost it. Her face darkened. But I wasn't finished. You really believe that just because I stepped away from the Sinclair name, I was alone? I asked, letting the smile fade from my voice. You thought I walked away with nothing? Newsflash, those are my parents. My blood. You think they'd really cast me out forever? I leaned forward, voice low, sharp. The only reason I ever distanced myself was you. Because I didn't want you feeling like a guest in your own home. I didn't want you thinking I'd dangle money or connections over your head. I threw away opportunities, security, everything, for you. And now, looking at you, watching you stand there and demand what's mine, like it was yours to begin with, I let out a quiet, bitter laugh. God. I was so stupid. So pathetically stupid to throw away a future, for a woman like you. And for the first time since she walked into that house, Brooke had no comeback. No fire. No rage. Only silence. And the realization that the man she once thought would never leave her just did. Before Brooke could even form a response, the door flew open again. Logan, self-righteous, puffed up, and clearly running out of patience, stormed into the room, placing himself protectively between Brooke, Trent, and me like he was some kind of knight in shining armor. "Lucas, enough," he barked, puffing his chest. "You're completely out of line. What kind of man nitpicks and humiliates his own wife like this? A real man protects his woman, not drags her down in public. Ever heard the phrase, love her like you're tending a garden? She's embarrassed out there, Lucas. She was humiliated. And what do? You double down on it? That's not strength, that's pathetic." He stepped forward, voice rising with every word. "And taking back what you gave? Really? You make us men look bad when you act like that. Real men don't keep score." I blinked slowly, then let out a low, exhausted sigh. This clown. I reached up and calmly rubbed my ear like his voice had physically irritated me, then looked him straight in the eye, cold and unblinking. "Oh? And what authority, exactly, are you speaking from?" I asked, my tone like steel. "Whose house is this again?" Then I let the next words land like the blow they were meant to be. "Oh, right, I almost forgot. You're just a bastard. A side product of the Rutledge name. The family tree forgot you exist the moment you were born. Tell me, Logan," I took a step forward, my voice slow and deliberate. "Since when do men like you get to walk into someone else's home and lecture them on manhood? You stand there, parading your borrowed surname, wearing another man's watch, eating on my dime, sleeping with my wife, and you want to talk about dignity?" His face drained of color. The bravado in his stance crumbled instantly, his hands twitching at his sides like he didn't know what to do with them. I didn't flinch. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. Because truth cuts deeper than rage ever could. "You really should have stayed in the shadows where the Rutledge family left you," I said, voice low and final. "Pretending to be a king doesn't make you one." Logan stood frozen. Speechless. Exposed. And for the first time tonight, he was the one who had nowhere to run. I smiled, slow, satisfied. Then leaned in close, until my voice brushed right against Logan's ear. Low. Measured. Every syllable laced with venom. "You really should have done your homework," I said, lips barely moving. "When you decided to live off someone else's wife, you might have asked who her husband was. And since you've already lost your dignity," I added with a cold chuckle, "let me give you a parting gift, something you can take with you when they throw you out of the Rutledge circle." I stepped back, just enough to look him straight in the eye. "By tonight, you won't even have the right to call yourself a Rutledge bastard." I didn't need to say more. The look on his face said it all. Color drained. Lips parted. Panic, pure and raw, flickered through his eyes. He lunged at me, fury finally tipping into recklessness. But I was ready. I sidestepped effortlessly. And Logan, too angry to think, too arrogant to keep his footing, stumbled sideways and slammed into the sharp corner of the marble side table. Crack. He grunted, stumbled, and hit the floor. Blood welled at his temple, dripping down the side of his face. The polished persona, the fake charm, the polished, young master act, shattered, just like his pride. He looked up at me from the floor, disheveled, humiliated, bleeding. It was a beautiful sight. But the real explosion came from behind him. Brooke had gone pale. Her lips trembled, eyes wide, voice barely above a whisper. "What did you just say?" she asked, blinking rapidly. Private child asterisk. What the hell does that mean? She turned on Logan, full of fury and disbelief. You told me you were the Rutledge family's heir. You said you were next in line. You said. Her voice cracked. You lied to me? Logan tried to get up, tried to speak, but no words came out fast enough. And then. Bam! Trent, who'd been silent through the chaos, stormed forward and slugged him, twice. Once in the gut, once across the face. You piece of shit, he shouted. I spent so much money on you. I bought you watches, clothes, tickets, gear, you said we were brothers. You used me. You made me look like a fool. Give me my damn money back. Logan lay on the floor, coughing, trying to block Trent's fists as the younger man went wild with rage. And I just watched. Because the best revenge is letting the liars destroy each other. Logan had never been on the receiving end of this kind of chaos. He was used to playing the suave outsider, charming women and fooling boys, all while keeping his own hands clean. But now, cornered, bleeding, exposed, he snapped. Wiping blood from his mouth, he shot a glare at Brooke and Trent and spat, "You really want to blame me? You're the ones who tried to climb into a world that was never meant for you. You thought one night, one man, one lie would turn you into royalty. You wanted the shortcut. You begged for it. And now that it's backfired, suddenly it's my fault." He looked at them both, cold and disgusted. This mess? You brought it on yourselves. Every inch of it. The room descended into chaos again, Trent lunging, Brooke screaming, Logan shoving back. The three of them flailing in a tangle of accusations, punches, and desperate insults. And me? I poured myself a cup of coffee, took a seat on the sofa, and sipped. In complete peace. It didn't take long before the three of them, red-faced and out of breath, slumped on the floor, bruised, disheveled, defeated. Then. Ding-dong. The doorbell rang. I set my cup down, walked calmly to the door, and opened it. A sharply dressed real estate agent stood there with a cheerful smile, flanked by a small group of potential buyers. "Mr. Sinclair," the agent greeted. "We saw the listing for this property on Zillow. It's rare to see something like this priced so competitively in this area, so we wanted to have a look." I returned his smile, stepping aside politely. "Of course. Take your time. Make yourselves at home." The buyers began to file in, murmuring in admiration at the open layout and high-end finishings. Behind me, the living room went still. Trent and Brooke, still catching their breath from the earlier brawl, both shot to their feet the second they heard the word listing. "Lucas," Brooke snapped, storming over, "what the hell are you doing? You're selling the house? This is my home. You can't just, we didn't even talk about this. You didn't even ask me." I turned slowly and looked down at her. Her face was flushed with fury, but her eyes. Those eyes were full of panic. Finally realizing this wasn't a game anymore. I gave her a half-smile. "Let me guess," I said softly. "You've lived here long enough to start thinking it all belongs to you, haven't you?" I stepped closer, my voice dropping low enough that only she could hear me. "Brooke, sweetheart. You cheated. In a marriage. Which, in case you forgot, still gives me legal leverage to wipe the floor with you. You want to scream? Go ahead. You want to threaten me? Be my guest. But this house? I glanced around, then looked her dead in the eye. It was mine before you. And it'll still be mine when you're gone. She opened her mouth, but I didn't let her speak. I don't owe you a single word of warning for selling something you never had a right to in the first place. Brooke's composure finally cracked. She lunged forward, desperate now, reaching out like she might cling to me, hold me back, play the role of the pleading wife. Lucas, please, she whispered. Can we just talk? But I sidestepped her, quick and clean. She stumbled forward, catching herself on the edge of the table. And I never looked back. Lucas, it's not what you think, please, just let me explain. Brooke's voice quivered, her hands trembling as she took a step toward me. She was unraveling, fast. But just as quickly, the desperation in her eyes turned to calculation. She swung around and jabbed a finger at Logan, her voice rising in fake outrage. It was him. This was all his fault. He seduced me, he manipulated me. Lucas, you have to believe me, I never wanted this. She put on the performance like she was auditioning for a daytime soap. Tears pooling. Voice shaking. Throwing Logan under the bus like it might save her from the flames. But Logan wasn't having it. He snapped. You lying bitch, he growled, face flushed red with rage. You think you're gonna dump all this on me now? He pulled out his phone with shaking hands and flung it onto the table. Here. Take a look. Let your dear husband see who really did the seducing. The room went silent as the screen lit up. I stepped forward, picked up the phone, and began scrolling. Text messages. Voice notes. Photos. Videos. Some I already knew. Most, I didn't. Turns out, Logan wasn't the first. Or the second. Brooke had been meeting other men for years. Whenever I was out of town, she found someone else to fill the space I left behind. Some she kept around for fun. Some gave her gifts. Some she discarded the moment they stopped being useful. And Logan? He was just the most recent fool willing to foot the bill. At least at the beginning. I scrolled through message after message, watching the web she spun unravel in her own words. One man talked about the watch I thought had gone missing. Another mentioned meeting her at my hotel suite. Another had photos, time-stamped, on nights she told me she was at her friend's place. I let out a low whistle, lips curling into something between disbelief and dark amusement. Well, I murmured, this is impressive. Brooke stood frozen. Trent looked like he'd seen a ghost. Logan just glared, bitter and bloodied, watching the entire facade crumble. I held the phone up and looked directly at Brooke. You know, I said, I thought I already had enough for divorce proceedings. But this? I tossed the phone back onto the table with a satisfied smirk. This is bonus material. Brooke's lips parted, but no sound came out. Because now, there was nothing left to say. No more excuses. No more lies. Just the truth, laid bare. And all of it, admissible in court. I forwarded every piece of evidence to my lawyer with a quiet flick of my thumb, and just as I settled into the sofa, savoring the weight of what had just unfolded, the door opened. Two elderly men walked in, suits pressed to perfection, but their eyes told a different story, tired, tense, deeply apologetic. Their graying hair and stooped posture betrayed a desperation they couldn't disguise. They stepped forward and gave me a respectful, almost reverent bow. Master Lucas, one of them began, voice tight with shame, we apologize for disturbing you so late. But please, we beg your forgiveness. Please don't hold this matter against the Rutledge family. We beg you, let this pass. I looked up slowly, arching a brow. Oh? I said, feigning surprise. So it's Mr. Rutledge himself. Forgive me, I almost didn't recognize you. That was a lie. Of course I recognized him. But I wanted the words to sting. And they did. I glanced at Logan, still standing off to the side, sullen and bruised. I remembered what Camille told me earlier. I've sent you two of my best people. Just sit tight and enjoy the show. And here they were. It all made sense now. Rutledge's largest joint project with the Sinclair family had been frozen, by me. The sudden halt had clearly sent their capital flow spiraling into crisis. And now, the patriarch himself had come to grovel. I took a slow sip of my coffee, then set the cup down with a quiet click. This really isn't my problem, I said coolly. I suggest you talk to your son. After all, you raised him, didn't you? My tone was mild, almost pleasant. But the implication hit like a hammer. Rutledge's face drained of color. He followed my gaze, and when he saw Logan still sulking in the corner, his expression snapped. Without another word, he stormed forward and slapped Logan across the face, once, then twice. The sound cracked through the air like a gunshot. You miserable fool! Mr. Rutledge roared. You think this is how you repay me? This is what you do when I tell you to stay quiet and lay low? You went after Lucas Sinclair's wife? You think you're worthy to even breathe in his direction? You want to play empire, yet you can't even keep your name clean. He spat at his feet. You want to climb so badly? Climb alone. You're done. The Rutledge family has no place for you. Logan's face twisted with horror. Dad, please, no, he stammered, falling to his knees. I know I screwed up, but don't cut me off. I can fix this, I will fix this. Just give me another chance. He clutched at his father's coat like a drowning man. I swear I'll disappear. You won't hear from me again. Just, don't send me back to that life. I don't want to go back there, Dad, please, not again. His voice cracked. And in it was the first trace of truth I'd ever heard from him. Because behind the arrogance and swagger, Logan was just a man terrified of the one thing he couldn't lie or seduce his way out of. Being nothing. And now? That's exactly what he was. Frankly speaking, Logan was a damn fool. By throwing his father under the bus in front of a room full of people, he committed the ultimate sin of the upper class, calling out a patriarch's failure in public. And in elite circles, nothing is more taboo than a bastard child causing a scene. I leaned back in my chair, watching the chaos unfold like a front-row guest at a sold-out Broadway tragedy. You idiot, Mr. Rutledge barked, his voice shaking with rage. This isn't your place to speak. That night, Logan was dragged out by the family's private security, kicking, pleading, and stripped of any dignity he once pretended to have. As for Brooke and Trent? Once they realized the tide had fully turned, and none of their desperate schemes had gone according to plan, they both dropped to their knees in front of me, begging. Lucas, Brooke pleaded, tears streaking her face. Please, for the sake of everything we've shared, let this go. Don't destroy us like this. Trent chimed in, his voice cracking with pathetic sincerity. Yeah. Lucas, you used to love her, didn't you? I swear, I can vouch, nothing really happened between them. Just let us off the hook. Please. I laughed. Cold. Loud. Unapologetically cruel. What did they think I was? Some kind of fool who'd pay to be betrayed? Get the hell out of my sight, I said. And don't ever come crawling back. Then I liquidated everything. Every shared asset. Every investment in their name. And I sued Brooke for adultery and fraud. With no money, no home, and no way to afford a decent attorney, they had no choice but to admit guilt in court. Brooke was ordered to leave the marriage with nothing, and fined $1 million. Trent? The university that had finally accepted him revoked their offer, citing moral character violations. Within weeks, they were both homeless, broke, and completely forgotten by the world they tried so hard to manipulate. But none of that mattered to me anymore. Their story was over. Mine was just beginning.